I'm joined now by former Defense Secretary Robert Gates, who introduced Rex Tillerson at his Senate hearing today. Former Secretary Gates, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Credit or blame for the Tillerson nomination in some way lies with you. You're the one who first suggested it to the Trump transition team. Your consulting firm does some work for ExxonMobil, but you got to know him years before through the Boy Scouts.
That's right. Rex and I have both been in leadership positions with the Boy Scouts. He was president a couple of years before I was, and frankly played a big role in persuading me to take it on. And after scouting events, as I said at the hearing this morning, we would often spend several hours at the end of a day talking about international affairs and so on. And so when the president-elect asked me if it was a blank slate, who would I recommend, I put Rex's name forward.
Now, what do you make of the concerns that you've heard expressed from some of the Democrats on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about Tillerson not expressing more outward condemnation of human rights in Saudi Arabia, human rights violations in the Philippines, whether or not Vladimir Putin is a war criminal?
Well, I think it's the difference between somebody who actually has responsibility and who understands that there are legal implications of those designations. So if you're going to be the Secretary of State, you have to take into account that when you say those things, unlike a senator who can say anything like that and there are no consequences, but if the Secretary of State makes a pronouncement about that, about a country or about an individual, then there are legal implications in terms of actions the United States has to take as a consequence.
So it's cautious.
So I think it's being properly cautious, and I haven't watched a lot of the hearing, but it seems to me he's trying to communicate that he has completely shared values with those senators, but if he takes this job, if he's confirmed, he's going to end up having to make some decisions that have very real implications for our relationships with those countries.
You said something interesting in your introduction to Rex Tillerson this morning. You said this new administration must thread the needle between pushing back against Vladimir Putin's aggression, meddling, interventionism, ambitions, and bullying, and at the same time find a way to stop the dangerous downward spiral in our relationship with Russia. That's a tall order. How do you do that?
Well, it is a tall order, but I think it starts with pushing back. Just my personal view, and I think one way you let the Russians and Putin know that they've stepped too far, first of all, would be to sort out our defense budget and basically say we're going to make some reinvestments in defense because of Putin's actions, what he has said and what he has done with his own nuclear weapons, but also with his conventional forces. And as a result, we are going to go ahead and fund modernization of our nuclear programs. We are going to do some additional things. And I think there are some specific steps we can take in specific countries that push back, but at the same time communicating to the Russians, look, we need to figure out a way to break this downward spiral, and we're willing to sit down and talk about that. I mean, that's what we did with the Soviets at the height of the Cold War.
CNN reported yesterday, and since then many other news organizations have matched, the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, etc., that the intelligence chiefs in their meeting with President-elect Trump on Friday provided information that suggested that there was information out there, claims being made by Russians. However accurate the claims are, who knows, but claims being made by Russians about potentially compromising information about Mr. Trump, financial, political, and personal. Does that concern you at all? I mean, you deal with intelligence heads, or have dealt with intelligence heads for decades. When they would, for them to bring such information to President Obama and President-elect Trump, what would that suggest to you?
I learned a long time ago not to talk about stuff that I don't know anything about. So anything I would say would be pure speculation. I think that it depends on the provenance of whoever was providing the information. I just don't know any particulars, so I'm really not in a position to judge.
Are you concerned, as somebody who sounds as though you would be slightly more hawkish, at least initially, with Vladimir Putin in terms of building up the Pentagon, and someone whose career has been one of challenging Russia in various ways, whether at the CIA or the Defense Department or at the NSA, are you concerned at all about some of the rhetoric we've heard from Donald Trump, not from Rex Tillerson necessarily, but from Donald Trump, about trying to have a better relationship with Russia, to the point that I don't think he's ever criticized Putin?
Yeah, I would like to, He gets the part about breaking the downward spiral in the relationship really well. Frankly, I would like to hear a little bit more on the pushback side.
Rex Tillerson is somebody who has enormous success in the business world. That is something that some on the committee seem to be concerned about. Can he view the world in a less realpolitik way, and also through a way of not alliances, but also human rights, promoting democracy? ExxonMobil, and it wasn't his job to do so, is not a company that is out there promoting human rights. It's doing its function, which is getting fossil fuels and making money. Because you know him so well, why does that not concern you?
Because I've seen a side of Rex Tillerson that people in the business world wouldn't necessarily have seen. I've seen him get up in front of a group of 1,000 or 1,500 volunteers in the scouting movement and talk with passion about American values, about human rights, about democracy and what we stand for as a country. And I think those feelings run deep in Rex Tillerson. I think he can make the pivot from executive to Secretary of State without any difficulty at all.
Several senators questioned how much Rex Tillerson, and this wasn't specific to him, this question has been asked of other cabinet nominees, but how much he would be able to stand up to President-elect Trump when he becomes president. You know both men, you know Rex Tillerson much better. Will he be able to stand up to President Trump?
One of the things that I found encouraging, frankly, is, and I introduced General John Kelly at for Homeland Security yesterday, one of the things that I found encouraging about the nominations of Jim Mattis at Defense, Rex Tillerson at State, and John Kelly at Homeland Security is I know all three of these men. Two of them worked for me. And I know they are tough, independent, strong-minded individuals who will tell the president exactly what he needs to know, not necessarily what he wants to know. They're not going to be intimidated. They're not going to be rolled. And so I think, frankly, it's a positive thing that the president-elect wants people of that caliber around him who he knows are going to tell him exactly what they think.
One last question for you. Since you know him through the Boy Scouts, obviously one of the most controversial parts Boy Scout history in the last decade or so had to do with the acceptance of gay scout leaders and gay Boy Scouts. What role did Rex Tillerson play in that discussion, in that debate, if that was part of his time in the Boy Scouts?
I think Rex played a big role in calming the waters in 2013 after the decision was made to allow gay youth to participate in scouting. The decision to allow gay leaders to happen to serve occurred on my watch as national president, and all I can tell you is Rex was very supportive, and the way we did it, we were able to keep virtually all of our major church sponsors on board.
Former Defense Secretary Bob Gates, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Jake.